Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay, it's 9 a.m. Welcome to the December 4th, 2024 board meeting. My name is Sung Oh, president of the board. Before we convene, I'd like to remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law. Where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. As I facilitate this meeting, I will announce when we are accepting public comment. I've advised the meeting moderator to allow 3 minutes to each individual providing comments. We'll begin with public comments for individuals attending in person, followed by public comments by individuals participating via WebEx. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting. Before we get started, I would like to ask staff moderating the meeting to provide general instructions. Moderator?
When the time comes for public comment, we're going to ask everyone to raise their hand, or at least everyone on WebEx. Dial-in users will need to dial *3 to raise their hand. And for our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... and cycle through one of 3 different pages in order to find your hand. As stated previously, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak, and I'll give you a 10-second warning before your time expires. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, David. I'd like to take a roll call to establish a quorum. Jesse Crowley?
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Jesse. Trevor Chandler?
Public member present.
Thank you, Trevor. Renee? Renee Barker?
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Renee. Indira Cameron Banks? Don't believe Indira is joining today. Jeff Hughes?
Public member present.
Thank you, Jeff. KK Ja? I don't believe KK is joining. Jay Newell?
Public member present.
Morning, Jay. Satinder Sandhu?
Licensee member present.
Morning, Satinder. Maria Serpa?
Licensee member present.
Thank you, Maria. Nicole Tebow?
Licensee member present, and there is no one over the age of 18 present with me at the room in this time.
Thank you, Nicole. And Jason Wise? I don't believe Jason's joining, and I am here. Corinne, does Jesse also need? Yes. Jesse, I'm going to give you the
Yes.
opportunity.
Sorry about that. I'm present and there's no one over the age of 18 present with me at this time.
Thank you, Jesse. A quorum has been established. I truly appreciate everyone's time and commitment to the board and California consumers. I ask everyone participating today to be respectful of the work before the board today. We encourage participation by the members of the public throughout our meetings at appropriate times. The board respectfully requests that when comments are provided, they are done so in a professional manner consistent with how the board conducts its business. Before we move to the next agenda item, I would also like to remind members of participating via WebEx to please remain visible on camera throughout the open portion of today's meeting. If you need to temporarily turn off your camera due to challenges with internet connectivity, please remember to announce the reason for your non-appearance when you turn off your camera. Next agenda item is 2, public comments for items not on the agenda. We'll now accept public comment for items not on the agenda. You're not required to identify yourself, but may do so. I would like to remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Accordingly, if your comment pertains to an item on today's agenda, please save your comment for the public comment period specific to that agendized item. Members, following review of the public comments for this agenda item, I will ask members to comment on what, if any, items should be placed on a future agenda. As a reminder, this agenda item is not intended to be a discussion, rather an opportunity for members of the board and members of the public to request consideration of an item for future placement on an agenda, at which time discussion may occur. We'll begin with public comment from individuals participating in Sacramento. Come on up. Come on up.
She's got to speak first.
Yeah, and this is on.
Thank you, Board President O. Julie Threet, I'm here from Butte County, California. I'm appearing for you today to appeal to your sense of duty to protect the consumers of California from a known toxin that has been administered by participating pharmacies, the COVID-19 vaccine. In addition, I'm appealing to your duty to protect employees of pharmacies who are effectively aiding in the administration of this toxin. I've called into your board a total of 5 times: November 2023, December 2023, April 2024, July 2024, and November 2024. At each meeting, I reported the number of deaths that have been reported from a vaccine administered by a pharmacy in California. Back in November 2023, there were 74. There's now 87. So that's 13 people who have died at the hands of a pharmacy in California. That's blood on your hands. At the end of this letter, you've all got this packet of materials. You will find my backstory and credentials. I'm coming before you to demand an investigation and full halt to the administration of this product in your pharmacies. I also request you notify consumers immediately. I also request you investigate if your pharmacies are trained and compliant in filing vaccine adverse event reports into the VAERS system as required by law. I would also request an agenda item on a future California Pharmacy Board meeting to review how many adverse event reports have been filed and what course of action was taken to remedy the problem. This is my hill. I'm vaccine injured by the shot. I've got microangiopathy, tinnitus, and 2 detached retinas requiring 5 emergency eye surgeries. I worked at the Butte County Public Health COVID-19 vaccination clinics from January through June 2021 and witnessed injuries at the clinic, effectively now becoming a whistleblower against Butte County. I was forced to quit my wonderful healthcare job at Enloe Health after they implemented the mandated booster shot, which I could not physically afford to take, and they would not allow me a exemption. For the past 2.5 years, I have now been a member of the medical freedom movement, working with honest doctors, researchers, and journalists from around the globe to fight this pharmaceutical product. I'm now lead investigator for a company called VAERSaware.com. Go look them up, and I'm assisting both victims as well as legislatures, from Senator Ron Johnson to Governor DeSantis of Florida. My mom was murdered by 4 shots of Moderna, and my daughter's a medical assistant in Alameda County, coerced to take these shots. I will not leave this planet until there's accountability and full stop to this man-made disaster. And with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now positioned as new HHS secretary, there's a new sheriff in town. In addition, Senator Ron Johnson issued a press release on November 20th demanding HHS, FDA, and CDC preserve all records pertaining to the COVID-19 vaccines, and I recommend you do the same. Again, I've got a lot of information for you here. I did bring these VAERS reports, which again are attached to your report. You can all run these. You can have somebody run these from medalerts.org. There's 87 cases now where people have died from a vaccine administered by a pharmacy. This all started in 2017 when you first began administering vaccines in your pharmacy. Again, this has nothing to do just with COVID. In 2017, you had 364 reports filed into VAERS. And then you had in 2021, 13,826, and it's gone up accordingly. So now there's 26,351 reports have been entered into VAERS from a problem from a vaccine administered by your pharmacy. Extra shots administered, duplicate doses, people died, and you need to have accountability. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for the comments.
Good morning. My name is Ronald F. Owens Jr. I was a public information officer at the California Department of Public Health for more than 14 years. I worked in the Office of Public Affairs. It's now called the Office of Communications. On October 13th, 2021, I apprised senior leadership at the California Department of Public Health, Dr. Tomas Aragon and Christine Theodore, who was the assistant director, that properly dosed ivermectin can cure COVID. In the email that I sent in October of 2021, I noted that Dr. Pierre Corey successfully treated more than 8,000 people with properly dosed ivermectin. Unfortunately, my department did not allow that information to you and the people behind us and the 40 million other Californians. They said that I was not a subject matter expert, so therefore that information was withheld from you. On October 14, 2022, Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra said this, quote, "We know these vaccines are killing people of color, Black, Latino, Indigenous people at about 2 times the rate of white Americans." That's a shocking statement. We know these vaccines are killing people of color, Black, Latino, Indigenous people at about 2 times the rate of white Americans. That quote is still, to this day, on the official White House's YouTube channel. Don't take my word for it. I will follow up these statements by sending you this information in writing. I apprised my management of what Department of Health and Human Services Javier Becerra said. I included information from the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, which Julie Threet just cited. There are people dying suddenly. There are people that have terminal cancers. There are young people dying at the football games or doing practice. Unfortunately, my management made it about me and not about you. I love all humanity, but here are the optics. I'm this black guy telling my two white superiors that vaccines are killing people of color, and they discipline me. I retired on December 31st, 2023, just about a year ago. And since then, I've apprised the 58 counties throughout the state of California what Javier Becerra said about the studies in Japan, Italy, Germany, that these vaccines are killing
10
people.
seconds.
Thank you. Bottom line is that you have the responsibility to use properly dose ivermectin
Time.
and promoting, administering, and distributing the COVID-19 vaccines. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the comments. Any other public comment in Sacramento? Come on up.
Hi, good morning. Mine will be a
Morning.
little quicker. Can you hear me okay?
I think it's not.
How about this side? That's
Yeah,
better?
you
There we go.
That works.
Okay. My name is Mark Rouse, pharmacist for 40 years. And that's the reason I'm here today. But I just want to throw out one quick public comment. Your October 2023 newsletter, thank you for pointing out about pharmacies who go past 30 days not having a PIC. It continues to be a problem. I'm just asking you, requesting that the next time you do this in a newsletter, hopefully you do a follow-up because you didn't do it in the next two newsletters, that you point out which pharmacies so consumers and pharmacists know which stores are so difficult to staff, even with all these pharmacies closing nationwide, that they can't get a pharmacist in charge to take the spot. Because of staffing, because of location, because of wages, because of benefits, for various reasons. And this is noted as chain pharmacies, which all have supervisors that have licenses, but they make working conditions so difficult in some of these stores that even the supervisors won't step down and take one of those spots as a PIC to protect the public and to keep the pharmacy operating. But once again, thank you for this. I'm just making a recommendation. Thank you for your time. I'm sticking around for the next level. Thanks.
Thank you for the comments. Come on up.
Good morning, Board. Vinay Arora for Cardinal Health. Just wanted to talk about California BPC 407 1.1 regarding shared services and remote work. We appreciate that the board put into the rule a pharmacist located and licensed in the state. However, we believe there should be a waiver program for ability to apply for a waiver from this for two distinct reasons. One, in emergent situations such as large stoppages in work, such as a strike or natural disasters. The second reason would be with pharmacy schools, a 60% decrease in applications to pharmacy schools. We feel that there will be a shortage in the workforce, and specifically for critical access hospitals, it may be tough staffing them, and that you should allow waivers for those particular situations to allow for remote work from non-resident pharmacies and people working outside of the state. Thank you.
Thanks for the comments. Any other Sacramento? Come on up.
Good morning, everyone. This is my first time attending the Board of Pharmacy meeting, and I'm really excited. As a pharmacist, I've been working for over 20 years now. I graduated from UOP, did my residency and my fellowship, and have been a PIC for quite a long time, again, over 20 years or so. And I just want to make two small comments. I know we're working on the PIC right now. If possible, I suggest if the new PIC that we have will be attending at least one Board of Pharmacy meeting a year as part of their program to be a PIC. And the reason for that is we need to know who is on the board, we need to be familiar with who is on the board so that we can reach out to help. And the second suggestion, beside the required or suggestion for the 1 hour CE with all the PIC that's coming out, is also to have a required 1 CE extra just for PIC, attended and taught by Board of Pharmacy auditors, just so that we know the true value and how important a PIC is to a pharmacy, instead of just regular CE program or law, but actually taught by an auditors, by the Board of Pharmacy. And I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Chi Nguyen. I'm a pharmacist in Sacramento. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for coming. Any other comments? We're ready to move on to WebEx. David?
All right, we are open for public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, make sure that hand is up. I've seen a couple hands go up and down. So, dial-in users can do that by dialing *3. For mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... and cycle through the 3 different pages in order to find your hand. Our first comment is coming from Monty Godard. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Great. Okay, good morning, President O, Enforcement and Compounding Committee Chair, SERPA, board members, executive officers, litigants, and staff. My name is Monty Goddard. I'm a licensed California civil engineer. I advocate for my wife, who has been an intractable pain patient for 2.5 decades. I'm a member of the Speakers Bureau of the National Campaign to Protect People in Pain. I attended the October 16th Enforcement and Compounding Committee meeting and wish to thank Chair Serpa for the agenda item on the impact of the state AG's nationwide settlement with the 3 major distributors of controlled substances. The settlement's injunctive relief, which requires the settling distributors to develop and hold secret controlled substances order thresholds for each of their customer pharmacies or pharmacy chains, is harming patients by artificially creating shortages on pharmacy shelves, causing legitimate prescriptions to go unfilled. I was very encouraged by the committee member discussion and public comments provided, which followed the formal presentation. I commented, Dr. Richard Thorpe, a member of the California Medical Board, but not speaking on behalf. Sorry? What's going on? Okay. But not speaking on behalf of medical boards, we have spoke. A Kaiser Permanente pharmacist spoke. Each of us suggested the Board of Pharmacy work with the medical board to brief the California AG on this nationwide settlement and how it was harming patients. Subsequent discussions by the board and staff wish the potential to expand such a joint effort to include other related California professional boards. I missed your subsequent full board meeting, but I viewed the video record. I wish to add my voice to my colleague and 40-year RN, Pat Irving, and the Kaiser Permanente pharmacist, John Gray's cautionary comments at that meeting. Simply educating pharmacists that they can request an increase in their thresholds will not stop the ongoing patient harm. At the recent December 21st through 22nd medical board meeting, Dr. Thorpe mentioned his attendance and commenting at your October Enforcement and Compounding Committee meeting. He requested the medical board agendize this issue, including a presentation. I presume similar to the one you received in October. I provided supporting public comment repeating the same request. Please do not let this issue drop off your radar screen. Seize the opportunity to join forces with California's other healthcare professional boards to stop the ongoing patient harm caused by this 10-year-long injunction. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments.
Next, we're going to hear from Tennille Davis. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hear me?
Go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you, President O and members of the board, for the opportunity to comment today on items not listed on the agenda. My name is Tennille Davis, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Alliance for Pharmacy Compounding. We represent over 600 compounding small businesses, including pharmacists, technicians, prescribers, and researchers. While we appreciate the board's responsiveness to some initial concerns, critical issues remain on these proposed regulations that threaten patient access to necessary compounded medications. We also raised concerns about the process. In the November board meeting, the board staff delivered a one-sided presentation over an hour long that painted compounding in a negative light. This presentation contains some misrepresentations, including misleading claims about other states' enforcement of stricter policies against Category 1 bulk APIs. Furthermore, the presentation was not listed on the meeting agenda, a seeming contradiction of the Bagley-Keene Act transparency requirements. Per the Act, at least 10 days prior to the meeting, bodies must prepare an agenda of all items to be discussed or acted upon at the meeting. Following this one-sided presentation, the board was asked to vote on moving these proposed regulations forward. They did not have the chance to hear an opposing view. In the updated proposed California regulations requiring full stability studies for every compounded preparation made with API and FDA's interim Category 1, irrespective of the beyond use date, is burdensome and unnecessary. Medications like inhaled glutathione are vital for patients, but risk becoming unavailable under these rules. This also contradicts federal guidance, as these APIs are on the FDA's interim list and allowed for compounding while under evaluation. Finally, California's attempt to enforce standards from USP chapters above 1,000 as regulations is concerning. USP itself states that these chapters are for informational purposes only and not compliance, yet the board staff purport that in the proposed regulations, they are simply listing all of the requirements of USP. The United States Pharmacopoeia does not require pharmacies to comply with any recommendations in chapters above 1,000, even if they are referenced in a chapter below 1,000. We strongly urge the board staff to reconsider the proposed compounding regulation, align with existing USP and FDA standards, and recommit to a transparent process that values stakeholder input. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. All right, it looks like we have maybe two left. If you are not Sean Kim or John Gray and you wish to speak, then it's time to raise that hand. Next, we're going to hear from Sean Kim. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone. Sean, your hand just went down. Hold on just a second. If you could put that back up. Let's try again.
I'm Cam from CPHA, and I appreciate the opportunity to provide the comments. I'd like to address sunset review item number 10 from the last meeting, payer practice that negatively impact patient care, particularly as it pertains to the implementation of AB 1114 pharmacy services, which authorize Medi-Cal reimbursement for pharmacist-provided clinical services such as HIV PEP and PrEP, naloxone, nicotine replacement therapy, self-administered hormonal contraception, administering immunization, and travel meds. These pharmacy services authorized pursuant to Welfare and Institution Code Section 14132.968. AB 1114 passed in 2016 mandates reimbursement for pharmacy services at 85% of physician fees scheduled and required DHCS to establish regulation by July 1st, 2021. Despite this, there remains significant inconsistency among the 24 Medi-Cal contracted managed care organizations, MCOs. Some MCOs reimburse only select services while others provides no reimbursement at all. When pharmacists reach out to help at the MCOs, they face delays, misdirection to pharmacy benefit departments, or months of waiting for claims responses. We urge the board to include mandatory MCO reporting in the sunset review requiring detailed data on AB 1114 implementation. This reporting would identify potential gaps in service reimbursement and ensure compliance with Medi-Cal obligations. As discussed previously, failure to enforce AB 1114 prevents pharmacists from offering critical services to Medi-Cal patients, disproportionately impacting vulnerable populations, and undermining public health. Addressing this payer practice that negatively impact patient care aligns with the board's missions to protect consumers and promote equitable access to care. By prioritizing this issue in the sunset review, the board can drive transparency, accountability, and effective implementation of AB 1114. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you for the comments.
All right, and potentially last, we have John Gray. Hold on, John. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone. You may need to dial *6 in order to unmute.
Hi, good morning. This is John Gray, registered pharmacist with Kaiser Permanente. Thanks for the opportunity to comment. Just wanted to suggest that the board consider agendizing a discussion of the HIPAA privacy rule, privacy final rule to support reproductive healthcare privacy. It is a final rule that goes into effect on December 23rd of 2024. The rule is intended to strengthen privacy protections by prohibiting the use or disclosure of protected health information by a covered healthcare provider, health plan, or healthcare clearinghouse for the purposes to conduct a criminal, civil, or administrative investigation or impose criminal, civil, or administrative liability on a person for seeking reproductive care, or for the identification of any person for the purpose of conducting such an investigation or imposing such liabilities. As part of the rule, and to implement that prohibition, the rule requires a covered healthcare provider, health plan, or healthcare clearinghouse, when it receives a request for PHI potentially related to reproductive health care, to obtain a signed attestation that the use or disclosure is not for a prohibited purpose. The attestation must be signed in any of the following cases: health oversight activities, judicial and administrative proceedings, law enforcement purposes, or disclosures to coroners and medical examiners. And so, in a nutshell, in the future, when a regulator such as the Board of Pharmacy requests records from an entity that it regulates, there's a strong probability that that entity is going to ask the regulator to sign the attestation required under this final rule. And so I think it might behoove the board, perhaps at the enforcement committee, to have a discussion about this, if for no other reason to promote awareness among the regulated public, as well as ensure that the board has a coordinated approach to receiving these requests for a signed attestation and executing the attestation so that they can receive PHI that they require to conduct their investigations. So again, it's the HIPAA privacy final rule to support reproductive healthcare privacy. We think it might behoove some discussion either by the board or by a committee like the enforcement committee. Thanks very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. And those are all of our requests for public comment at the moment.
Thanks for the comments. Thanks, David. Okay.
President Ho, could I interject for just one moment?
Go ahead, Corinne.
Just on the comment on the compounding regulations, I just wanted to remind the commenter that they have the opportunity to submit their comments in writing during the formal comment period, and that would be the best way to get the comments to be formally considered by the board. And also, just for the record, the claim that was made that the presentations on the compounding regulations were not agendized, I respectfully disagree with that.
Thank you. Thanks, Corinne. Okay, David, is that it?
Yes, President O, those are all the comments.
Thank you, David. Okay, members, with that, any comments? Jesse and Nicole, just go ahead and speak up as well. I think, Nicole, I just saw you about to possibly speak. So were you going to say something?
Yes, I was. It wasn't a topic though. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm getting weird feedback from the room. Jesse, are you getting that too? I was getting it on the phone calls too, that it's like breaking up and like staticky after you all speak.
Yeah, I'm also getting that,
Ghost.
Nicole.
Uh-oh, Cesar, I guess.
It goes in and out. It's not constant, but it keeps happening.
Okay.
David, the moderator. It has to do with the volume of different microphones, and it's a problem that we're trying to resolve for the long term. If it's intolerable, please speak up, but it
That's
may
really
have to be
strange
something that we're
considering we've
trying to
had
deal
many
with.
meetings here with no issues, and all of a sudden.
David, let me correct you because microphones, all the microphones has the same level here. So it's not the microphones here, it's when you open to the public or somebody from WebEx is speaking is the one. So you're welcome to mute me and let me know. And if that helps the public and the two members that are in WebEx, we will continue to doing that, but has nothing to do the microphones inside the room.
My apologies, but it is a problem that we're aware of and we're trying to solve, but it's probably not going to be solved today.
Okay, well, Nicole, just kind of keep us posted on this endeavor. Hopefully, it will be resolved. We'll just get through the day somehow. Members, any comments? There are a lot of comments. Thanks all for all the comments and thanks for coming. Really appreciate your time. More comments? All right, we're ready to move on. Next agenda item 3, recognition and celebration of pharmacists licensed in California for 40 years. The board's recognition for over 40 years is posted on our website, and pharmacists are provided with a certificate when they reach this significant milestone. I think we have a pharmacist in the room.
Sorry, Sung. I don't know if this is happening for Nicole, but now your microphone actually sounds a little muffled. It's a little hard to hear you.
Oh, okay. How's maybe.
That sounds clear.
Okay. Is it better?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, that's better.
Okay. Okay, so we're at the 40-year pharmacist. Come on up here, and I'm gonna get to give you a little pin here. Thanks. Thanks for coming up. Yeah, go ahead and come on up.
What do you want to do?
I mean, I would go down there, but
No. I'm
hey,
here.
do you wanna?
You can take a picture.
I'm mobile.
Oh,
Go down there. Need the president.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. You wanna say a quick word?
No, I'm.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yay. In the olden days, I would have my mobile microphone and talk for hours, but I won't be doing that. So I'll just move on. Any 40-year pharmacists in WebEx? David?
We are open for public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue?
Yes, please. Thank you. Really appreciate everyone who has been a licensed pharmacist for over 40 years, and all pharmacists for that matter. And the board thanks you for your contribution to public health. Next is agenda item 4, review and approval of draft sunset report, including sections 1 through 9 and appendices. Members, as we approach the deadline to submit our sunset report as a board, we have completed significant work to identify areas to raise as part of the board's report to the legislature. I believe the work we have undertaken is notable. I'm very proud of our efforts and proud to serve on this board. As you recall, most recently, as part of the November 6th through 7th, 2024 board meeting, we approved new issues portion of the Sunset Report. Today, we'll consider the remainder of the report, sections 1 through 9, and related appendices. As we begin our discussion of the draft report, I want to remind members that we cannot wordsmith everything, including any proposed statutory text. The ultimate language included in any legislation will be that of the legislature. And I'd like to thank staff for their work on drafting this report. The volume of information requested by the oversight committees is extensive. Staff worked to compile all of the requested information was likewise very, very extensive. We're truly fortunate to have such dedicated staff that work so diligently to ensure the hard work of the board is appropriately captured, especially in the data requested. I'd like to ask members that if you have any if you identified any non-substantive issues such as grammar or etc., or typos, to email Anne directly following the meeting. From a process standpoint, I intended to provide each member with an opportunity to provide comments on all of the sections today. Following this process, I will solicit feedback from members and entertain a motion. Once a motion is on the floor, we'll open for public comment. So I will start like the last time. Jesse, do you have, I know it's a lot, but just any comments, thoughts on it? We'll start with you, Jesse.
The only comment I had was regarding the CE audits, which I think was on page 50 to 51. There was a note that there was an increase in CE failure rates, and that there was indication that some of the people audited didn't complete required law and ethics CE. And I was just curious to know if any of the failure rates for 2024 included cultural competency CE, or was this more prior to the implementation of the cultural competency requirement?
Thanks, Jesse. And
I'll have to get data on
Yeah,
that. I'm happy to report back.
Thank you.
If this is something that the board would like us to add a statement, though, to the report, happy to add in a sentence or two about implementation of that, if that's appropriate.
Jesse, would you like to add a statement about where we are in cultural competency? As it is,
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate, given our DEI initiative, if we have the information. But that's the only comment I have.
Okay. And Trevor?
Yes, thank you so much. For
Might be
this.
done really early today. Might all get to go home.
Those are the famous last words.
I know,
said
right?
aloud. So yes, thank you for this. This is extremely thorough. A couple of things that I wanted to touch on was the fund condition, because I know we passed the updated fee schedule after the audit was done, and I noticed in the fund projection, it still has it. I'm just trying to. I was scrolling through and I lost it. It still has the fund projection going downwards rather than upwards. With our updated fee structure, shouldn't that be going upwards? Should we be getting more? Could you go over that?
Yeah, so what I'll say about the fund condition is that it's kind of a moving target, right?
it.
As budget changes occur, it fluctuates. So I will make a note to the fund condition is prepared by the department. I will make a note to confirm that the fund condition has not changed since we released it. And we'll make sure that the most updated fund condition is included in the final report.
Okay, so this isn't the most updated one with the updated fees, or
So the fees take effect the beginning of the year.
Got it.
So it's still kind of based on some projections.
got it from the previous ones. Got it.
I would also, please correct me, Ann, but I would also boldly say, I think if it wasn't updated, it would have been in more like negative, like
Got it.
territory,
Got
like
it.
on the
Okay.
projection. Like we would have really been in like 0.
Okay.
So I think it still is making progress.
Right. I just noticed for like the projection for the next, like we hit 20 million and then it starts going down after that.
And that's because projections include like 3.5 year-over-year
Got it.
increase, and that's really hard to predict.
Got it. Okay. Second one, it noted in here that we loaned the general fund money and we're allegedly going to be getting that back. You know how general funds tend to hold on to things. How much was that? How much do we expect the board to get back from the loan? Hopefully all.
Yeah, we should receive the full amount back. I'll have to confirm the amount. I feel like it was 2.4 million.
Okay. And would that go directly into our reserve fund or does that go into operating funds when it's returned?
It goes into the fund condition and then the board will receive, its expenditure authority. But the repayment goes into the fund.
Into the fund.
Yeah, and if the language is not clear in the report, I'll make a note to make sure that that's clear as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And it noted there's one phrase I didn't know. It was around the modernization with Breeze, B-R-E, capital E-Z-E. Could you explain what that is to me? Because I hadn't seen that before.
So the Department of Consumer Affairs, different programs within it use different systems for managing its licensing and enforcement activities. Breeze is one of the systems that is used by some of the programs.
Got it.
And so as the board, as we are going through business modernization, Breeze is one of the systems that the oversight committees are asking specifically about. And that's in part, I believe, because there was a big effort several years ago to standardize some of that and the systems that were being used. So I believe that that's why the oversight committee, but we're happy to provide additional information on business modernization, maybe separate from this report to the board,
Totally.
if that's helpful.
Yep, sounds great. And it mentioned that there was probably going to be significant expenditures in the coming years regarding modernization. Do we expect that to like significantly up the budget of the board, or will we have to make cuts elsewhere to?
So, is this better? Is this better? Okay. So, the business modernization activities in and of themselves, some of it is unknown because we're kind of at the beginning stages of it. We will work with control agencies as appropriate to secure the necessary funding, if that's what the data shows, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But we really work with the department on the BizMod process, as well as the oversight committees of the state.
Got it. Sweet. Thank you. And I note it said within the hiring section, and this is just a matter of curiosity, that we're having issues with filling the vacancies because of eligibility issues with the state's hiring system. Could you be specific? Like, what are the issues with the state's hiring system that's preventing the board from staffing up?
So I think that there's a couple of different challenges with recruitments, and I think that some of it is still carryover a little bit from COVID and some return to office kinds of things. But the state also has a very strict is the wrong word, but a very like prescribed hiring process. And sometimes you do identify individuals that you believe are appropriate, but they might not meet some of the standing is the wrong word, but like placement in ranking and those kinds of things to make them an eligible candidate. So it's just kind of navigating the hiring process, which can for someone that's not already in state service, can be a little bit challenging to navigate sometimes. So we do try where we can to assist.
Absolutely. If there's, and this is just a note for future business, like if there's a way that we as a board can make those recommendations where they're statutory to the legislature about saying this is an issue, we're having a hard time staffing, it'd be something that I'd be interested in helping out on to try to streamline that system, just as a point. And I also just want to say congratulations to the entire board on hitting all those performance targets. I mean, that was really impressive to see all of it. I mean, obviously we have work to do with the pharmacy and non-resident pharmacy, but with basically the board hitting every single one of those targets, it was just really impressive. So just congratulations
Lots of
on all of that.
weekends,
Lots of
overtime for our
weekends.
licensing staff.
Yes. Next is citations and fines. I just noted in 21-22 we had $1 million, 900,000 in unpaid fines there. Just wondering, are we still in the process of trying to get that back? I know that was COVID era. Is that the reason for that? It seemed like it was an oddly high number compared to like this year, which was almost fully paid. All the fines were fully paid.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different, there's a lot of contributing factors for everything, but in terms of the, sorry. Yeah, okay. In terms of collection of fines, it depends on the sourcing of it. So there's been a couple of different things that have happened with respect to citation and fines. One, we have new authorities, and higher fine authorities in some. So that's something that we are in the process of implementing, right? And then we are seeing changes in the number of appeals that are received for fines. So those then kind of are in like a pending status while appeals are, going through. We do work where we can to secure fines that are owed through the intercept process, but our authority to do that is limited in that we can't do it for some types of businesses and those kinds of things. So it's a lot of different factors. I don't know that I explained that very well, but hopefully.
But to Trevor's point, it would be good to add an explanation why for FY 21-22 we assess 1.9 million, but we got 1 million. But on the other years, we seem to have collected all the. I'm sure there was some kind of a factor in there. I'm sure there's a reason. So
Well, and sometimes there's carryover from one fiscal year to the next, right? So you assess it in one fiscal year, but you collect it the following fiscal year.
Yeah, so that'd be great to have more info on.
Yeah, I'll put a statement in about that as well.
Awesome. That's all the questions I had.
thank you, Trevor. We're moving on to Renee.
Yeah, just thank you so much for, I don't know if I'm too far or too close. Yeah, for such a informative report, and it definitely outlines the amount of work the board does, from year to year. It was just really impressive to see the actions that have been taken on behalf of consumers. So I don't have any other feedback.
Thank you, Renee. Jeff?
Well, this is my first exposure for the Sunset Report process, and thanks to the executive officer really spoon feeding me the hard work that's gone into this. I'm impressed in that how much was accomplished over the last period and where we're at today. So I don't have anything additional as well. Still learning.
Thank you, Jeff. Next, we have Jay.
I'm in the same boat as Jeff, just being new to the process. I want to definitely thank Ann for helping break a lot of this down. It was a ton of information, so I definitely want to thank the whole team for being able to put together the information in a comprehensive way, taking all the separate teams and then having to synthesize and cross-relate all the information is a lot. It's a lot. And this honestly is not a large number of people to be doing and dealing with as much data as I dare to say we do. So I just want to show some appreciation for the hard work that went into it, and we'll see what happens for the upcoming year.
Thanks, Jay. And then Satinder.
So I'll echo what some of my colleagues have said, all the hard work that the staff did putting this together, very comprehensive. I had to go back and forth quite a bit. I did have a question. Some of the questions already been asked. One of the things that I noticed that the percentage of cases completed within the performance standard, the investigation closed, and the performance, it seemed like 21, 22, 22, 23, there were a lot of it. We're starting to go down in it, 23, 24. Is that because staffing, or is it a less complaints coming, or is there any consumer?
Yeah, so we can provide some additional trending like narrative in the report if that would be helpful. I would say that we are seeing an increase in consumer complaints that are maybe non-jurisdictional. And so I do think that in part, as we maybe, consider some additional parameters or regulation over some of the payer practices, maybe some of the things that currently, we lack the ability to maybe resolve for patients, we might be able to handle some cases a little more, a little differently, or refer to other agencies based on, some of the changes in the law that we have. So there has been an increase in the number of non-jurisdictional and insufficient evidence as one example. And those cases generally don't take as long to do because you can't do too much in terms of investigation. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's what kind of I was getting into. Maybe we can delve more into it, that like where these consumer complaints are coming from. Is it from the, maybe from some, like you said, it's non-jurisdictional, could be from because the payers or restrictions or access caused to the consumers, therefore impacting the outcomes. Maybe that could be more explained. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Satinder. Next is Maria.
Yes, thank you. I really enjoyed reading this report. It seems like it's kind of an odd thing to say, but it's a nice summary of all the activities that we've talked about. I did have one comment and then one question. The comment is similar to Jesse's comment on the CE audits. I see that probably would be a good discussion of its on its own in the board. Not only the results of the audits, but how to improve the understanding of licensees of the CE requirements. And I'll just add that I recently renewed my pharmacist license online. What an interesting experience when you look at the not regulatory, but what the state requires is a lot more steps. And one of the things I noticed that wasn't there, that it is pretty easy for us who commonly say terms and conditions, click, 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 is I'm afraid that the CE attestation will be just click, click, clicked, which is harder to do than when you did on a paper, when you actually had to check it off. And so that's one of the reasons why I think we should discuss this more. The other thing is, I would encourage us to, I don't know if it's something that the staff can do or if we need to discuss as a board, is to add more click boxes to make some specifics, because nothing in the online, except at the beginning, there's a, be aware kind of statement about the requirement for CE on law and ethics. But when you're actually going through the form, there's no little box that says right next to it, write in, it says type in the number of CE units you've accomplished in the last 2 years. It'd be nice to have some click boxes right underneath that would list the ones that are required. Most people are required, or most pharmacists are required to have 3, but those that are practicing in some other unique areas also have requirements, and it would be nice to actually have people click that. So that's the comment on CE. The other question is, I was noticing as I was trying to look up the Appendix G when I was reading the ADDS information, and I couldn't find any appendices that are alphabetical. I read all the appendices that are numerical, but I'm wondering, is that something that we reviewed previously, where that is?
Yeah, so that will be in the second volume of the report. In the questionnaire, they list out a lot of different attachments that need to be provided, including, for example, like the board member procedure manual, and we'll be providing like samples of the script and those kinds of things. So attachment G specifically will be developed based on the board's discussion on Section 9, because those are the statutory changes that you're identifying in response to the prior issues. So that's what Section 9 is. And then based on your discussion, the staff will be developing the language consistent with the policy to include in there. But that's why G specifically is not, but you've already approved, for example, the new language for the new issues. So today it's giving the staff the direction on the Section 9 so that we can then work with developing that language, and then depending on the motion, determining who we finalize that with for submission.
Yeah, thank you. And I do remember seeing those concepts in previous, I was just trying to have a cheat and jump to section G rather than trying to look it up. But I know we have reviewed it in the past, so thank you for reminding me.
Thanks, go ahead, Trevor.
I just had a selfish interjection as I was looking at the appendices. I noticed I was marked absent for the 9:14 and 9:21 meetings, but I don't believe I was sworn in by then. I don't think I was at those. I don't think I was ready for those. So selfishly, I would like my attendance record to be improved if I could get that noted for the 9:14 and 9:21 meeting.
I'm sure that won't be an issue. Okay, thanks, Maria. The CE comments are great. I don't want to complicate this discussion, maybe, but it would be nice to specifically say, I think this is what you're hoping for, is like when you're renewing, the box would say, I have completed 2 hours of law and ethics CE. The next box would say, I have completed cultural competency CE, right? And then the next box say, if you work in these settings, I have completed CEs for hormonal contraception, naloxone, all that. So that would like you have to click the button, right? That's kind of what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think something that is, what is it called? A requirement, a forcing function, that's the word. Because I think the board does provide a disclaimer at the very beginning of the process of going online renewal that says that it's a requirement. But I think in our society now, people don't read things. You know, how many times have you clicked terms and conditions and never even read them?
Right.
So I think people just click boxes. They don't really read them, which is not a good thing.
If I may, so my takeaway from this is to add into the report that we'll be exploring ways to update the online renewal process to more
ensure-
clearly require differentiation of the completion of the different CE requirements or something along those lines.
Yeah, and to maybe emphasize that that is also an avenue of education.
Thank you.
Because that also tells people that they could stop the renewal process and actually do those online. It's very simple.
Yep. Hopefully nobody's renewing the day before their licenses expire. That would be, hopefully not. Nicole?
Yes, thank you. Just want to echo what my fellow board members said, that I found this very impressive. I thought that this format was very readable and easy to follow. Most of the things, have already been commented on, but the one thing I found very interesting is you could see repeatedly throughout the report the effects that COVID had, particularly the early phases of COVID on our processes. And I thought it wasn't an intentional way to memorialize it, but we kind of unintentionally showed that throughout. So I thought that was really interesting.
Thank you, Nicole. And that's it. Oh, well, we went through it already. Any other comments, members? Before? Okay. No, this is a lot of information. Me personally I haven't reviewed the information, and I am truly in support of the information provided in the draft report. I appreciate the trending information in licensing and enforcement, and also the significant policy work we have undertaken to protect California consumers. I note that the meeting materials and the slide include a possible motion that could be used to approve the draft report and delegate to the board president to finalize a report with staff. This draft motion is consistent with the approach taken at the November meeting related to specifically for new issues. As sunset is such a significant issue, I would like to make a motion to approve. And I can read the motion. Approve the draft sunset report sections 1 through 9, including its appendices and attachments not previously approved by the board, and further delegate to the board president to finalize the report, appendices, and attachments consistent with the board's policy discussions. So seeking for a second for my motion, members.
Second.
Thanks, Trevor. With a second, we're ready for public comment in Sacramento. We have someone coming up, just in case y'all wondering, for Jesse and Nicole.
Thank you, Board. Mark Johnston with CBS Health. Excellent report that's put together. I just wanted to comment on a section or two. The board acknowledges that intern registrations are down, which is going to lead to even more pharmacist registrations that are down, which is going to cause stress to the system. And you noted in your report aptly that you've increased tech expanded duties to try to offset some of this. Also, I see in your 111-page report from last meeting, the draft bill to be run, that you're proposing ratio increases, even more clarification on tech expanded duties. So I thank the board for all of that, and just want to highlight how important it is, and maybe to even think a bit further out of the box. As an example, there's 10 states now that allow technicians to do final verification without a pharmacist check, including your neighbors to the north, Oregon, your neighbors to the east, Arizona. Arizona's allowed it for, geez, I think 2 decades now, especially with technology that's available now. It's proven safe and effective and frees the pharmacists up to do many of the duties that I see that you're proposing in your sunset review bill. With less pharmacists, I just question, how we'll be able to do a lot of those duties unless we think outside the box. And expanded tech duties even further is one example. I'm also concerned with pharmacies closing, including, my employer's pharmacies closing in the state. I think perhaps you should take a fresh look at telepharmacy. There's many statutory hurdles that prohibit it from being really effectively used in the state. With technology these days, I think that telepharmacy can serve as pharmacy deserts that exist right in the middle of big cities. It's not just a rural issue anymore, especially with all these pharmacy closings. And really just embracing technology. I know some of our coalition members, I'll say, are interested in central fill much more than my company, but embracing technology in a wide variety of aspects, including central processing, central fill, work at home, which I see is again part of the sunset review bill for pharmacists, but more than half the states allow work at home for data entry for technicians too. So anyway, I just encourage the board to think proactively about really some impending doom that I see on the horizon with a limited amount of pharmacists. Thank you.
Thanks for the comments, Mark. Do we have any Sacramento? Ready for public comment at WebEx? David.
All right, we are open for public comment via WebEx on the motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3. And as a reminder to our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... and cycle through the different pages in order to find your hand. First, we're going to hear from Danielle Robinson. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
The opportunity to comment. On page 97 of the report, issue 11 regarding the California Pharmacy Jurisprudence Exam, I know that this was evaluated and there OPES did an assessment of whether the feasibility of the MPJE as a replacement for the California Jurisprudence Exam. And they determined, and the board agreed, that maybe this wasn't the time to do that. However, there's 49 boards of pharmacy that work directly with NABP to develop that MPJE, and they, in order to develop a state-specific exam. So I question how OPES could ever have concluded that the exam would not be appropriate for California if they've never seen an exam or they've never seen an exam developed for California. So I think this item should be put back on the table. And related to just the most recent comment that was just made, it's very important to think in the future about transferability. mobility of pharmacists who graduate and are licensed in California, economic opportunities, innovations in interstate practice, such as telepharmacy, medication management. These are all things that are being denied or made very difficult because of the CPJE exam and the fact that we're not part of a national exam. I also question, there's part of our statutory requirements say that the exam must include aspects of contemporary standards of California pharmacy practice not evaluated by NAPLEX. And I don't think that's relevant today. We use national accreditation standards for all graduates of pharmacy programs across the nation. Pharmacy practice in California is not different. What might be different are some of the laws, and that's exactly what MPJE would do, is develop an exam based on the laws in California. So I would like to suggest that this item be put back on a future agenda. I think it was closed too quickly at the recommendations of OPES. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the comments.
Next, we're going to hear from John Gray. Hold on just a moment, John. You may need to dial *6 in order to unmute.
Thank you very much. This is John Gray, registered pharmacist with Kaiser Permanente. First, just wanted to say we echo Dr. Robinson's comments on issue 11, the MPJE. We would encourage the board to continue to evaluate whether the MPJE would be a more appropriate exam, particularly given, as others have flagged, the difficulty in administering the exam in a way that ensures that students coming out of school have the opportunity to take the exam and complete their pharmacy residency, which has also been brought up in the past. So just echoing Dr. Robinson's comments on issue 11. Then on issue 22, related to ADDS devices, we find it encouraging that the board has recommended the deletion of Business and Professions Code 4427.8. We think that's a welcome change. And we hope, without getting into any ex parte communication issues, we hope that it will open the door for some evaluation in the future of whether there is an appetite to remove the requirement that pharmacies report ADDS-related errors to the board for those pharmacy types that are already subject to the medication error reporting requirement that's coming into effect, and or the MERP requirement, as if they're a GAC, if they're part of a GAC, a general acute care hospital. So those are the two items we wanted to comment on. Otherwise, really appreciate the report, and looking forward to see it working its way through the legislature next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Keith Yoshizuka. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Oops.
I can hear you.
Okay. I said I was unmuted. Keith Yoshizuka as an individual. I wish to address the topic of, I believe is number 7, job creation. So historically, California has been a leader in entrepreneurial efforts, and in a separate document regarding pharmacy deserts, the board in its report identified that there were over 100 pharmacy deserts within the state. Given the entrepreneurial nature of several of our pharmacists, if it would be possible to publish where those areas are, I think that might do two things. One, it might alleviate the problem with some of these pharmacy deserts by identifying opportunities, and two, with that increase the availability of jobs within the state. That's my observation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Courtney S. Hold on just a moment, Courtney. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Courtney Shoemaker. I'm a pharmacy technician supervisor with Private Medical in Los Angeles. I wanted to echo the previous comment about expanding the role of pharmacy technicians in California. When I moved here from Michigan 5 years ago, I saw my scope of practice be drastically reduced from what I was used to doing in that state. I think that if we were able to expand the role of practice for pharmacy technicians, it would not only assist with the pharmacists more as they perform their tasks, but also that this is something that's been proven effective in other states as well. Outside of that, I wanted to just make a comment on the CE requirements that had been discussed earlier. I know in Florida, when you renew your license, they have it attached to the NABP profile of the candidates for renewal, and you actually cannot renew your license if that auto check on the back end that checks for the CE requirements is not if it states that you haven't completed the CE. So that could be something to look into outside of just checking a box that I think, as everyone stated before, people might not actually read. So I just wanted to offer that piece of knowledge, and then I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. And those are all of our requests for public comment at the moment.
Thank you, David. Okay, with that, members, go ahead.
I just wanted to correct a couple of items on the record, and that for new members of the board and for the public to understand, the MPJE versus CPGE discussion was long and extensive. The board was totally amenable to going to the MPJE. Legally, we were required to have an evaluation that explains that in page 97. It also states the areas where it was found there was insufficient evidence of validity, and it had to do with methodology, not the test or the test questions, but the methodology in 2 areas. That unfortunately, we couldn't go into the details during the board meeting because NABP, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I understood, NABP required the state to sign a non-disclosure agreement, not only on the tests, but their methods of creating the test. So what is written here is, I think, very clear that there were 2 areas in the methodology that did not meet, and I would encourage those that are interested in using the MPGE to work with NABP, because they certainly could improve this, and we would be happy to reevaluate their test.
Thank you for the comments, Maria. Any other member comments before we go for vote? Okay, I am not seeing anyone, so ready for a vote. Jesse, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thanks, Jesse. Trevor?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Thank you, Renee. Indira's not here. Jeff?
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. Jay?
Yes.
Thank you, Jay. Satinder?
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder. Maria?
Yes.
Thank you, Maria. Nicole?
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole. And I vote yes. The motion passes. Members, thank you again so much. I will work with the staff to finalize the report and ensure timely submission to the oversight committees. Following submission of the report, the final report will be posted on the board's website. Also, as we learn more about the timing of the committee hearings and related information, we'll keep you all posted. As a reminder, following anticipated oversight hearing, the board will have 30 days to submit its formal response to issues identified by the oversight committees. Depending on the timing of the hearing, we may need to convene another board meeting to finalize responses to ensure we meet the required response time. So just keep that in mind as we come to the year 2025, April or May, maybe. So we'll let you all know. Okay, it's 10:14, so I'm gonna push through one more item, and then we're going to probably take a break at 10:30 and hopefully go to lunch at 12. So agenda item 5, discussion and possible action related to proposed amendment to California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 1793.65, related to pharmacy technician certification programs. The next item for our consideration is the board's proposed changes to California Code of Regulation Title 16, Section 1793.65 related to pharmacy technician certification programs. The proposed amendments extend the sunset date of the pharmacy technician certification programs approved by the board. You may recall the board has conducted with the Office of Professional Examination Services to conduct the necessary audits of both certification programs to confirm compliance with our legal requirements. As audits are still underway, extension of the sunset date was necessary to ensure the board has sufficient time to receive and consider the audit results. As included in the meeting materials, the comment period ended on October 7th of 2024 and no comments were received. As the board's original motion did not delegate authority for the executive officer to adopt the changes if no negative comments were received, this issue was agendized to allow the board to consider the matter and adopt the amended regulation text. Members, I note that the meeting materials and the slide have possible motion language. And as I open for member discussion, I would also entertain a motion if you believe such action is appropriate. Members? Anyone want to make a motion? It's very long, but it's there.
All right.
Thanks, Trevor.
I move to adopt the regulation text as noticed on August 23rd, 2024, and authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking. Further, delegate to the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by the control agencies to complete the rulemaking file.
Thank you, Trevor. Any second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Satinder, with a motion and second. Any other member comment? All right, we're ready for public comment in Sacramento. Seeing none, ready for public comment in WebEx.
We are open for public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment on the motion, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And it looks like our first request is coming from Stephen Gray. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone. All right, Stephen, we're going to send you another request to unmute your microphone. If you have multiple screens open, you may need to come back to WebEx and click the mute button. We may have just lost Stephen Gray. It appears like a complete disconnect. He's no longer part of the meeting. President O, do you wish to continue?
Go ahead, and if Dr. Gray comes back, Corinne, can I have him talk? If he comes back on the next agenda item, okay. We would have already voted though, but hopefully that's okay. Any other?
There are no other requests for public comment.
Okay, all right. If he shows up back, please alert us, David. Okay.
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we're ready for vote. Jesse, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Trevor.
Yes.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes. The motion passes. Okay, we'll try one more agenda item, and then hopefully we'll go for a quick break. It's agenda item 6, discussion and possible action related to proposed amendment to California Code of Regulation Title 16, Section 1747, related to independent HIV pre-exposure prophylaxis furnishing and permanent regulations, including review of comments received during the 45-day comment period. Moving to the next item for our consideration, the board's permanent regulations related to HIV PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis. You may recall that following enactment of Senate Bill 339 earlier this year, the board adopted emergency regulations that became effective August 14th of 2024, updating the board's regulations, establishing the training program requirements consistent with the statutory provisions for pharmacists furnished HIV PrEP, PEP and PrEP, PEP and PrEP. The meeting materials include a brief background on the rulemaking, the comments received during the 45-day comment period, and staff recommended responses to the comments received. I trust members had an opportunity to review the meeting materials. I have reviewed and agree with the staff recommendations. I appreciate comments suggesting changes to the language to allow for additional training programs. I do agree with the staff that an approved training program needs to address California-specific legal requirements that may not be included in CDC training programs. I also want to note that the board's regulations establish minimum requirements. There is nothing that would prevent a pharmacist from completing additional training, including training offered by the CDC. I would also like to note that should the board be successful in securing a transition to a more robust standard of care model, such a transition would remove some current restrictions for pharmacists furnished HIV, PEP, and PrEP, which I believe could then allow the board to remove the requirement for this section of regulation. Just a quick reminder, during the November 6th through 7th, 2024 board meeting, members approved the board's updated training course. I believe we're targeting release of the updated training by the end of the year. Members, I note that the meeting materials and slide have possible motion language, and as I open for member discussion, I would entertain a motion if you believe such action is appropriate. Members? Go ahead, Trevor.
Yes, so I just wanted to get clarity on the response to comment 1 about the commenter, and I read the letter as well, urged the board to allow use of CDC recommended long-acting injectable PrEP, to which board staff responded that you don't recommend any changes based on the comment, and that the comment is outside the regulation's scope, that the regulation does not address the types of products that can be dispensed and is specific to training and documentation requirements. So I looked at, I just want to get some clarification on this because the 4052.02, all it says is pre-exposure prophylaxis, right? And so does this or does this not apply to the long-acting injectables? Because those do count as PrEP. So I was just confused about that.
This is a very legal question, so you might, and probably want to pawn it off to you, Corinne, and she's probably going to tell us she has not. Jennifer? Okay. Because this is, very technical sense, understandably.
So the section of this regulation section speaks specifically to the training program and to document requirements. So it doesn't speak specifically to products.
Okay, got it. So this is specifically to, oh, got it. Okay, no, so it is outside. Totally get it. All right, thank you.
Can I jump in super
Go ahead,
quick?
Nicole. Yes, this is your areas of expert. Yeah.
Sure. So Trevor, just to you might be aware of this already, but the long-acting injectables are a gluteal injection, so injected, into the gluteal muscles, which is not something that is often done in a pharmacy because of the lack of like an exam room and privacy and things like that. So there are maybe bigger barriers to giving long-acting injectables that need to be thought about and overcome. But the way that most pharmacies are set up to do injections probably wouldn't work for this type of injection.
Thank you. Thanks, Nicole. Okay. Any other comments or anyone want to make a motion?
I had another comment. It's not specifically related to this training. I think this came up in one of our recent meetings, but wanted to make sure that I also flagged CMS recently made a change that PrEP for Medicare patients is done through Medicare Part B as in boy. But CMS doesn't recognize pharmacists as providers. So this is going to be an issue for anyone who's trying to prescribe PrEP as a pharmacist in California. It's not necessarily going to be covered for Medicare patients. So that's something that I think we need to work on reconciling so that we don't deny access to our Medicare patients. But beyond that, in relation to this, I would go ahead and make the motion. Do I need to read the whole thing on the screen?
That would be preferable for regulation motions. Yes, Nicole, thank you.
Sure. I move to accept the board staff's recommended comment responses, adopt the regulation text as noticed on September 20th, 2024, and authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking. Further, delegate to the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by the control agency to complete the rulemaking file.
Thank you, Nicole. Do we have second?
Second.
Thank you, Trevor. With a motion and second, ready for public comment in Sacramento? Seeing none, we're ready for public comment in WebEx. David?
We are open for public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And it looks like our first request comes from Richard Dang. Hold on just a moment, Richard. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Association. I wanted to comment on a few things that the board members have commented on. I understand that it's outside of the scope of the regulation, but I think it's important to provide this comment based on the conversation. So regarding the discussion of long-acting injectable HIV pre-exposure prophylaxis, Business and Profession Code 4052.2 does state that a pharmacist may furnish an HIV pre-exposure medication that has been approved by the FDA for such indication and is recommended by the CDC. There is no specific restrictions on the route of administration of an HIV medication that can be prescribed for pre-exposure or post-exposure prophylaxis. So for clarity, I don't see any legal restrictions as to why a long-acting injectable would not be within the scope of a pharmacist to furnish. Second, to Nicole's comment, I do agree that there are logistical barriers that may impede the access and availability of these types of medications in certain locations. However, from a scope of practice standpoint, I see no legal barriers for a pharmacist to administer a long-acting injectable medication either. Administering a medication has been ordered by a prescriber is within the pharmacist's scope of practice under 4052. And I'm trying to pull up that specific section right now, one moment. It is 4052A3. A pharmacist may administer drugs or biologic products that have been ordered by a prescriber. Again, there are no legal restrictions or regulations that dictate the route of administration that is limited that pharmacists can do. So pharmacists could do a gluteal injection if they have the proper training. I agree with Nicole's comment that most pharmacists are not trained to provide gluteal administration. They are mostly trained for intramuscular or subcutaneous. However, there are advanced injection technique training programs that do train providers, including pharmacists, to do gluteal injections and vastus lateralis injections and other alternate sites. And if the pharmacist possesses those proper credentials, that it is allowable within the current scope of practice. So I don't see a legal restriction, again, for a pharmacist to administer these types of medications. If I am interpreting the law incorrectly, I would appreciate any clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Stephen Gray. Hold on just a moment, Stephen. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Oh, was it John Gray that disconnected last time? I thought it was Steve Gray.
I believe it was Stephen Gray.
Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, we can hear you, Dr. Gray.
Thank you.
Yes,
I also want to echo what Dr. Dang just said. We have had the ability to administer medications that were ordered by a prescriber for decades. There are various settings where that our pharmacists can and do administer such injections, such as the long-acting gluteal injections. So I do not see any problem with that. Obviously, whether it is under a standard of care approach or any other approach, the setting needs to be appropriate and the patient's privacy respected. But there are community pharmacies where that has been happening for several decades. The second thing I want to say is there was a comment, I think, by Nicole about CMS changing PrEP to a Medicare Part B therapy instead of at the pharmacy, and that she mentioned there was a problem because pharmacists cannot bill under Medicare Part B. That is a problem, but I want to emphasize that that is only affecting Medicare patients. And there's a misunderstanding that the CMS would make this a requirement and would be a problem for non-Medicare patients. And given the type of therapy, this is certainly not something that is only applicable to Medicare patients. So there may need to be, for public education or pharmacist education, a clarification that that CMS change only affects Medicare. And then with your permission, I had some technical problems on the last item. Just you might want to mention regarding the technician certification extension, when that will be actually effective. Because as I read the statute, the effective ends at December 31st at midnight, and it wasn't clear to me how long the rest of this regulation change process will take in order for, will there be a gap in terms of technicians being able to get licensed because of the gap of the effective date of that regulation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Dr. Gray. Go ahead, David.
Dr. Gray is still with us.
Thank you. I'm finished.
Okay.
All right. That is the last of our requests for public comment on this topic.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Okay, members, any other comments before we go on for vote? All right. With Jesse, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Trevor.
Yes.
Thank you, Renee.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes.
Thank you, Satinder.
Yes.
Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes. The motion passes. It's 10:32, so we're gonna take a 15-minute break. We'll come back at we'll take 13 minutes. Sorry, 10:45. Sorry, I like the 10:45. We'll come back at 10:45. See you back. Thank you. Jesse, are you back? Okay, I'm going to take a quick roll
back.
call, Jesse.
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Jesse. Trevor?
Present.
Thank you, Trevor. Renee?
Present.
Thank you, Renee. Jeff?
Here.
Thanks, Jeff. Jay?
Here, present.
Thank you, Satinder.
Here, present.
Thank you, Maria.
Here.
Thank you, Nicole.
Here.
Thank you, and I'm back. Hopefully you all sent Debbie your Chipotle orders so she can get that going because we might need to eat sooner, but they don't open till 11, I believe, or maybe I don't know. I'm not 10:30. Okay. Okay, next agenda item 7, discussion and consideration of board-provided pharmacist in charge overview and responsibility training course consistent with California Code of Regulations Title 16, Section 1709.1. The next item for our consideration is the board-provided training consistent with the recent changes to California Code of Regulations Title 16, Section 1709.1 related to pharmacists in charge requirements. As a reminder, in January 2022, believe it or not, 2022 January, the board approved proposed regulation text to amend section 1709.1. You may recall that during the November 6th through 7th, 2024 board meeting, we adopted the final regulation text. To ensure the board's training program is available in advance of the effective date of the regulation requirements, Today, we have the opportunity to review and approve the proposed training program. I'd like to thank Supervising Inspector Tony not Tony's name. I always struggle. I'm sorry, Tony. I hope you're not listening, but Nangara, for his effort to develop this training program. I have reviewed the materials and believe the training program is appropriate and consistent with the direction of the board. As I open up for discussion, I note that the meeting materials in the slide include a potential motion that could be used to approve the training program. Members, any comments or thoughts on this training program? I think it covers all the topics. For some reason, Jesse is really small up there, so hopefully, I don't know if that. Oh well, we're almost there anyway. Members?
I just had one question. I'm not sure if it's could be a slide in the presentation, but a common question that we get from the public is when to take the test and how often to take the test.
Oh, good idea.
It's not a test. It's review the information, the training. At the very end, there is really good information about saying you must maintain record of this training for 4 years. But does that mean that I should take it every 4 years? I think that would be just in time kind of education if we had a slide that kind of talked about, I think it does talk about the beginning that's
Basic.
required,
Right.
but the basic, yeah.
Like, I would like to become a PIC. I have been a PIC already. Do I need to complete this test or training or some scenarios that may come up? So, okay. So, Tinder?
Yeah, I had a question similar to Maria. Like, does it a repeat training, ongoing training? Like, okay, if the purpose of this is that we want to make sure that the PICs know what they're doing, I know we communicate some of the changes on assessment form that happens every 2 years. So if you are a PIC, you're getting some of the changes communicated through there. But is this training required just once, or is it ongoing? That could
Right.
be.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessary.
Good comment.
I had a question. I was just looking at the presentation, and if when you look like you go from page 14 to 15, where it's the inventory reconciliation report of controlled substances, 1715.65, and page 14 is A and B. Page 15 skips C and D and goes to E and F. So I just wondering, is there some background? Because C and D seem like pretty important things to know. I mean, I know they're more detailed and it's longer, but like describing inventory reconciliation report is C, and D is about writing about identified losses within 30 days. Okay. Oh, okay.
And is
I didn't know if it was like, is
you'll
there a
add
page
it.
missing or? Okay, thank you.
We probably try to, I'm sure the attempt was to just slim down as much as possible, but I think you're right. I agree. It's the totality of the regulation is very important. That 1715.65 as well as 1715.6. The 6 is a loss, right, Dan? Okay. Any other member comments? Nicole, Jesse, are you all good?
Hi, Sun. This is Jesse. I just have a comment. I know we had discussed this being a continuing education opportunity for pharmacists as well, and I don't really see that anywhere in here. So it may be good to add a section on how they can save this for a CE credit if that's something that we still are looking for pharmacists, and just also making it clear that anyone can get the credit for it, not just people who are PICs. I know that was something that we received public comment on, that it may be a barrier. So just letting pharmacists know that this is another opportunity for them to get a CE credit would be helpful.
Okay, sounds good. Nicole, are you good? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion? Everybody shy all of a sudden on this one. Uh,
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Maria.
With a pause, long pauses require attention. I move to approve the draft pharmacist in charge overview and responsibility training course consistent with the board's discussion.
Thank you, Maria. Any second? Do we have second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thanks, Renee. Okay, and we're ready for public comment in Sacramento. Come on up. Oh, yes. I wish I had that blanket. Oh my God, that is nice. This room is cold.
On an aside note, I
right.
mentioned earlier, this is my first board meeting, and I'm really enjoying this. I wish we have more water and snacks, but that's all. I'm kind of worried about the PIC because I see so many young students out there that are my students, and they come out and they become PIC without realizing how important the position is and how valuable that position is as a leader in that pharmacy. And I know the classes are required, the Cs are required, but how do we know how many PICs are there right now so that we can see that number to match the CE program that's being allowed, so that we know that all the PICs are actually taking that class. I'm not sure if I'm phrasing it correctly. Like right now, we don't know how many PICs are there in hospital, in communities, in nursing homes currently, so that when we roll out this program, we have to somehow make sure that we match it so that we're not missing anyone that's not taking that program.
Good comment.
And then, if possible, I know that I'm not sure if technicians can become somehow as an aid also to PIC, another step for the technicians to advance. I know the title is pharmacist in charge, but is there some type of technician in charge that can also help? Because they play such a major role to help make our workload, to lessen our workload, but to help with our patients too. That's just something that I wanted to suggest out there that we can take a look at. And then lastly, I know PIC is the major topic, but I know that AI is now helping us a lot too. I'm not sure if our wonderful board members are discussing about that and how they can assist and aid and encourage our job to be less stressful and less strenuous. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. And we're ready for WebEx, David.
We are open for public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3. And for our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... in order to find your hand. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment on WebEx, do you wish to continue?
Yes, please. Thank you, David. With the comment received, I do want to say that from my understanding, it's not like everybody who's a PIC currently have to take this. This is for anybody incoming. So hopefully there's a way for us to correlate, since they are required to submit the form to the board. The number could be correlated to see if the requirements are being met. So as they're assigned, like we would see the number of people taking this training course match the number. Hopefully that's something that we could make that happen.
I'll make an action item. Hopefully I'm not
We're all
too close.
battling with the microphones
Yeah,
today.
we can make sure that we do post-implementation review of the regulation requirement that includes this as maybe an agenda item for licensing in a year or so.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Anne.
Hi, Sung. This is Jessie. Just for clarification, because I was under the impression that every PIC would have to take it. So is this only for incoming PICs?
Where's our attorney? Nope, our one of our attorneys
Yeah.
gone missing.
Jennifer left, but I mean, the proposed regulation text says the PIC shall have completed the board provided overview and responsibility training course within 2 years prior to the date of application.
Yeah, so
And they need to complete an attestation statement regarding their compliance with it.
No, that I think that explains that. My understanding it was only the incoming was my understanding during the regulatory.
Yeah.
Now remind you that January 2022 was a long time ago, so my memory may not be serving that well, but I think Jesse, the understanding is that it is incoming. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe the way that so not an attorney, so let me just be very clear about that. But I believe that the way that the language is drafted, it is as a function of the application for appointment to a PIC, you need to demonstrate compliance.
And back in January 2022, the discussion was either that or what you described, that everybody who is serving current would have to take it. And we did not go that extreme route. We decided to go on the route of at least incoming PICs because we were really concerned at that time of the youngins that are gung-ho, and we just wanted to remind them and let them know when you're taking this responsibility, this is what you're signing up for. So that was kind of a stepwise approach. And in the future, if we feel that there is an opportunity to expand this to every single PIC that's currently serving, then that's something that we could probably look at in the future as well.
Okay,
Hope that
thank you.
answers.
Yeah, that helps to clarify it. I think there are still a lot of PICs who were put into that position
Right.
at a pretty early age and may not still fully grasp what their responsibility is. As this unrelated to, there was a couple other things I thought of too, which would be maybe helpful to include. One may be a slide regarding subscriber alert sign up. So just to make sure that the pharmacy and then all of the licensees within that pharmacy are signed up for the Board of Pharmacy subscriber alerts. It may be good to have a slide reminding that. And then also with the resources that we have, I think it would be helpful if we also had a link to the California Pharmacy Law Book, potentially a link to the script too, so that PICs will know where to look for the most up-to-date changes and regulations. And potentially the FAQ sections that we have on the board's website. I know we have a link directly to the board's website, but there's just so much information on there. I think having those specific things, especially for a newer PIC, may be useful under the resources.
Thank you. But Anne, just to confirm, this will be available to everybody who wants to take it, right? So anybody can take this course. So like I want to be audacious and review this training, I can just do it. Anybody can.
Correct.
They just
and
need
it will be-
LMS account.
Yeah, it'll be on the board's website for anybody to take.
Okay.
And we can, include a subscriber alert once we release it so that there's broader education about its availability.
Thank you. Okay, members, any comments?
I think
Go ahead, Susan.
just to echo, this is what she said. I think there could be a section on the, instead of like a link to the board's website and just then you're trying to find it, it could take you to information for PIC specific resources, including this training. So if they could be referred to it at any time, that are useful for just for the PICs on the site. If it's, I don't know, technically it can be done or not.
So if I'm understanding correctly, separate maybe from this, but developing similar to like our how to prepare for an inspection toolbox, trying to
PIC
develop
toolbox.
some kind of a PIC toolbox on our website, separate from this. Yeah, okay, making that note. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Are we good to go, members? We're ready for a vote. Jesse?
Yes.
Thank you. Trevor?
Yes.
Thank you. Renee?
Yes.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yes.
Thank you. Jay?
Yes.
Thank you. Satinder?
Yes.
Thank you. Maria?
Yes.
Thank you. Nicole?
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes. The motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the wonderful meeting today. We're very efficient. Staff will work to finalize the training program and ensure it is posted on the board's website by the end of the year. We're moving next to the agenda item 8, closed session. I'd like to thank members of the public for your participation today. As indicated on the agenda, the board will now convene in closed session to discuss the items set forth on the agenda. Adjournment will immediately follow closed session, and there will be no other items of business discussed. Please note, adjournment may not be viewable in the webcast. Members of the public, thank you for joining the meeting today, and we'll start the closed session in about 15 minutes to get everybody to leave the room, and we'll lock it up so we can start on this closed session. Thank you all.